He always does this, right? Because that way the videographers know. So I'm always busting on him because he's running around smacking his hands. So Rob was a student of mine. You'll learn. And actually, Evviva is a derivative of work that I did. So one of the things that bothered me, and we'll get into finance later, but that on this campus there wasn't a single personal finance course. And there's still, I think, only one, and it has very limited enrollment. I don't even think engineers are allowed to take the course. And it's boring. It's the classic, whole bunch of stuff that's really boring. And so I felt that I was sitting with MBAs and PhD students. They were really smart, dual degree people, and they were going to leave here without knowing anything about personal finance. And I just thought that was insane, because the 10 years where you'll have the biggest impact on your wealth are from your senior year of high school and then 10 years, which includes now. So I don't want you to have to, end up with a whole bunch of debt, and then you wake up one day, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And then you start learning finance because you missed one of the greatest periods of time ever to create wealth in your life, your 20s, okay? And you won't even have to give up much of your time. So I always did side hustles all through college and then in the beginning of my career. And most years while I was in the corporate world, I actually made more money side hustling than during the day. And I had really great jobs. So it wasn't like I was slacking off during the day. It's just that I had an entrepreneurial spirit that allowed me to do all kinds of really interesting things. And some of it was consulting. A lot of it was code writing, right? I helped automate a lot of systems. I had the advantage of no one knew how to code back then, right? Now today you compete with people around the world. So what we did is we're able to use a method to teach you some finance. Rob's going to go in that in detail. Right, but I think the reason I'm here today is that I just wanted to assure you that if you are an engineer or a scientist and you have some desire to be an entrepreneur, there are things on campus that can help you out. Certainly Blackstone Launchpad has a lot of activities to get you started. The School of Management has have programs now that you can do things like 3-2 degrees with our MBA program, or you can have a major, right? So there's all kinds of different things, minor. So there's all kinds of things you can do to tack on. But there's other things, like I just have engineering students sometimes just come to me, I just help them with businesses. Right, so there's a lot of ways that we can help you, and I think in the beginning here is really about answering questions that you have. The one thing that I know I've had great success is in the tech entrepreneurship. That's MJO 365/665. It's a mashed up. Yours is just undergrads, but I have another one that's mashed up undergrads and grads. I will tell you that it's fairly routine now. A person walks in, starts learning entrepreneurship, has an idea, works on it for the semester, and exits and starts a company. I've even had people raise hundreds of thousands of dollars from the work they started in the class. So it goes pretty fast, right? And you're going to work on a real project. But I think what it does is it allows you to express your chops as a scientist, as an engineer, and get right into solving very tough challenges that hold people back from living a better life. Right? My approach is I look at entrepreneurship from a life of service. So everything I always did was like things like prevail over disease, or come up with ways that people can have a much better life, like Evviva, so that young people can get started on their personal financial management journey at a time where they can have all those extra years to compound their investments. Right, so, and I'm sure if it's aerospace or mechanical or whatever it might be, you probably have all kinds of ideas about what products you might be able to build that could really help society and people around the world. We have Bosnians here on campus right now. Last week we had people from Serbia. I've done things in Africa and South America. What you're going to find is your generation on a global basis are really into entrepreneurship. Right, lots of side hustling to get started. What used to cost me $500,000 to start, you can start for under $5,000. Is there anybody in this room? If you could find $1 million idea, could you find $5,000? Anybody think they couldn't? You're waffling. Is it a no or yes?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Somebody help. How would she do it? There's a place to start, okay. And what would she do there?
Okay, so at Blackstone Launchpad, there's different competitions. So there's even one where you just say your idea and you can win $1,000.
Okay, so there's different competitions.
Yeah.
Yep, you can go to ELN. You get a $500 stipend per semester, right? So that'll get you $1,500 to $2,000 right there, right? We didn't even get started yet. Rob, where would you go?
You could go talk to investors, right? People in the local community. Go make friends.
Yeah, I mean the ecosystem in Buffalo when I first got here there was pretty much nothing, and this is not me. I mean it's just the whole community working together. 43 North and all the things that we do downtown. I've helped students start hundreds of companies now. All kinds of different ways, some little ones and some bigger ones, right? So there's 5,000 is not going to be that big a barrier, surprisingly. I know it's a lot of money, okay? But if you have a way to show somebody that you have something really remarkable that could grow into a company, you can get that money. Just come see me, I'll show you how to do it, okay? All right, I want to not take up too much of Rob's time. Any questions? What would you like to know about entrepreneurship? Or even about my journey moving from science into management in the corporate world and then off on my own ventures. This is your chance. Just ask away. I'm super open. Yeah.
How many years did you spend in the corporate world before you kind of branched off into your?
So right after college, I started doing research, and almost immediately I had some role in the business side of it. What I discovered is I had a really good knack for that. I think that's because I side hustled, so I could sell and I could work with business people. So I wasn't kind of just locked in a lab. So pretty much right away, and then I stayed in the corporate world probably maybe 10, 12 years. Yeah, so I'm not an entrepreneurial snob. A lot of people say, oh yeah, if you're real rugged, you drop out of college. Okay, that's dumb. Okay, Steve Jobs did that and Zuckerberg did it and Gates did it. And they always point to those iconic figures, but the actual research shows that staying in school actually results in better performance as an entrepreneur, right? And the thing is, when you first come out of school, you have many students have debt, and you have to start paying back. You're still kind of learning. You're building a network. You're getting access to capital. You're getting a deeper understanding about how to really solve difficult problems. And it wasn't until my early 30s. I was head of global procurement for Merck, the big pharma company. And I was at a presentation kind of like this. And the FDA was coming in talking about a really big problem. Pharmaceutical reps were selling samples on the black market, and people were dying and people were being hurt by the unsafe products that were being put out. See, the drug industry would send $100,000 worth of product to a drug rep and not track it. And a lot of these unscrupulous drug reps started to give it out to family, and then they started to sell it. Right, so imagine you start making 50 or 100K a year, by selling those samples. Well, it didn't take long till the really bad guys were involved, and they mixed up the drugs, and a white pill's not a white pill, and people got hurt and died. Well, and so that it wasn't until I was at that meeting. Oh my gosh, this is huge. Okay, the whole industry is going to have to change how they market, and I resigned, and I'm the cliche. I started my business in a garage. And I remember about 2 weeks later, I thought, am I so arrogant? Am I self-employed or unemployed? Because my desk was next to like a mower, right? And I was like, oh boy. And I had this really, really great corporate job, right? And palace office kind of stuff. I'm like, ugh. But it worked out. It worked out really well for me. So don't be in a rush. So how many businesses do you have to start that are successful, that have an incredibly fulfilled life, full of freedom? 5 companies, 10 companies, 1 company. Yeah, that's it. You need 1. So you just want to play the game long enough that you have that 1 successful company, and then you have a life of freedom. Okay? And you get that freedom by helping and serving other people. So the final part of that story is that I wrote a lot of algorithms that looked at data and looked at things like sampling behavior, uptake based on market size, and I looked at prescribing behavior of the doctors in those markets. And what I was able to predict is when reps were diverting product. All right, and then we went to the FBI and we would arrest them. How cool is that? Okay, I worked with the FBI on some of the early algorithms of how they would identify criminals, and that was like I had to teach them like what databases were and how there's fingerprints on databases and all that kind of stuff, right? So that really grew pretty rapidly, and then we came up with all kinds of other things. So, all right, other questions? Yeah.
So you talk about all these side hustles that you did.
Yeah.
So nowadays, what side hustles maybe do you recommend or do you think would be most successful?
Well, I think it comes down to your personal background, but Rob can talk a lot about this too because he's the side hustling king from when he came out of college. I think you look at what your skill sets are and what you like to do, and then try to find things that match. Rob can tell you about his, but there's so many different things. So there's platforms, there's things where you can just plug in. So I have students who come kind of game things like DoorDash because they look at where the high yield is, where the best tips are, where they can spend the least amount of money. One of the students told me that he's averaging about, after taking gas and things out, $37 an hour. All right, so that's way better job than what you would get if you worked at Tim Hortons or something. And then you work your way up that there's other ones that you can have product and sell, like Etsy and Poshmark and those kind of things. And then you can go all the way to do it yourself. I was more of a do-it-yourself person because I did a lot, even when I was young, I did a lot of consulting. So I was pretty aggressive at ways that I could sell services at a high level. If that just fit for me, because I could code. Today, that's not differentiating. You probably all can code. When I was your age, not that many people could actually code. Right? So I would go in and say, I can automate those systems for you. And they thought it was like magic, like I had a genie in a bottle or something. And they were like, oh my God, they were still using paper and pencil and slide rules. And I was like, we can write this on a computer. Like, oh my gosh. Right? But so, what do you like to do?
Like in terms of business?
Yeah, give me, so I like the idea of focusing on what I call a unique capability set, right? Where you can do something that other people can't do, and you love to do it. So if I asked your friends what you are fantastic at, what would they tell me?
SolidWorks, yeah.
Okay.
AutoCAD.
Running. Putting you on the spot. Being a good friend.
Okay.
I don't know.
Eating pizza? Is that one? Okay. All right. So looking at like AutoCAD, start thinking about where might you come up with some kind of service that local companies would want that, or is there a place that you could go into like a third-party software and start, getting clients that way? Like an Upwork, right? So I have students that go on Upwork, and then so I have had students go on Upwork, secure the jobs, and then outsource to Upwork people. Okay, so there's all kinds of arbitraging that you can do. You just got to be clever. You got to think about where your unique capability sets are. Okay, so but if you want to like brainstorm those things, we're all around to help. All right? Yeah, sure. Other questions?
I know you mentioned running, right? So think about you could almost come up with a running coaching program for women or people who niche down and hey, we're gonna go through this week-long program, and I'm gonna get your 8-minute mile to 7 minutes or whatever it is.
Nice,
and something like that. People probably pay for that.
Yes, sometimes it's simple things. And you'll see in the numbers. So if you were to put $100 aside every month for the next, during your adult life, right? So wherever you want to go, 50 or 60 years old, how much money do you think you'd have? It's not very much, $100. Anybody think that they can find a way to get $100 a month? If your life depended on it, could you find $100? Yeah, of course you could. How much money do you think you would have? If you just invested that in the stock market, S&P 500, don't pick any stocks, just go into S&P 500. And just do it once a month. Nothing big. Live the rest of your life, go big. Total abundance. What do you think you'd have?
300,000.
You can't answer. Okay, 300. Not even close.
3 million?
A little high. Yeah, $1.5 million. $100 a month. And yet there's people who are mid-50s complaining they don't have any money. You know why? It's easy not to put $100 aside. So are you going to talk about paper cuts?
Absolutely.
Okay, so he'll talk more about paper cuts in just a bit. But so we came up with this idea that there's a special. So I was standing at Starbucks literally one day, and I couldn't squeeze in the door. There were so many orders going across that counter. It was unbelievable. I got $7, $7, $7, $6, $5, $7, $7. And I'm thinking, but I hear students all the time say they don't have any money. there's a couple $1,000 that just walked out the door right in front of me by the time I could get my drink, right? And so we threw together a calculator to go, what does that actually cost people, right? And then it was a lot. It's like literally a $7 a day latte. He'll give you a paper cut calculator. And then I started talking to people, and they go, why are you picking on coffee? All right, so because they know I drink coffee all the time. All right, and so we started making a list, and the other paper cuts are in-game purchases, online shopping, gambling, right? All these other places where you don't get a lot of delight in your life, and they just constant paper cut, paper cut, paper cut. So we did a calculator to show you how much that's actually going to be worth. And then it's up to you. I mean, you should do, if you want a latte, go get a latte, right? I'm a abundance guy. But if you have to know what it costs you. And when you're young, those $7 a day habits, the $10 a week or the $30 gambling or whatever, you go, it's not that much. Wait till you see the calculator. It's $2 million later in life. Not a little bit, $2 million. So imagine your parents would have $2 or $3 million extra dollars. What would they do? How would their life change? So you have a choice. You can be sloppy about your finances and then go, hey, we still got to work and take care of things. Or you can do some of these finance things that Rob will share with you today, and it'll completely change your life. What we're after is freedom. Okay? We're not after the money. We're after the freedom. And so what happens is that if you're disciplined just a little bit from now over the next, until you're 40, like the next 15, 20 years, right? You'll find that you'll be financially free, which allows you to take the jobs you want, be with the people you want, spend time the way you want, travel the way you want. You'll have flexibility. You won't wake up with a sweat because you're worried about paying your bills. Okay? You'll still work. You'll only be 40, okay? You'll have a family, you'll be coaching kids and reading to kids, and you'll be, if that's what you want in your life, but you'll still work. You're smart people. You'll still want to do things, but maybe you take a year off and go on a sabbatical or something, okay? So I'll turn it over to Rob. Any last questions? I don't want to take up all your time. Anything? All right, well, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you so much, Bob, again, and for the introduction. My name's Rob, too, so try not to get us confused. I know it's tough, right? We got Rob and Bob sort of thing. But again, my name's Rob. I want to just first off start by thanking everyone for being here. Engineers, I respect and commend you guys a lot. I mean, you guys are going to be changing the world, right, that we live in. So kudos for you for pursuing something that's challenging and really solves big problems for the world here. So you guys are awesome, and want to just say, start with that. But yeah, I mean, if you can't tell by now, and kind of how Bob kind of segued into things, personal finance is huge, right? Doesn't matter what major you are, where you come from, what background it is. If you start yourself off on the wrong foot, it's going to be very tough throughout life, right? So that's kind of where Evviva comes from, is we wanted to teach the basics of personal financial management to make finance fun, simple, and easy, right? It's the kind of stuff that they just don't really teach you in school. Right? Maybe mom and dad might not have done a really good formal job of teaching you things. You might know a little bit here and there, but it's right. So it's like it's just kind of this gray area where we don't really know too much about, and school, frankly, doesn't do a great job of teaching people things. So that's kind of why we started Evviva and where this really comes from. So, right, it's confusing. Most people are just like, where do I go? How do I start? And that's why we started Evviva. We want to help get you started so you can be on track to being financially free by the time you're 40 years old. So we call it a free by 40 system. We want to make financial freedom easy for you guys. So this is a brief overview of the entire system in a nutshell here. Starting up at the top left here, we have an FU number. This is a target, right? So how much money do you need to have invested so by the time you're 40 years old, you have enough passive income coming in to cover that lifestyle? Who wants to take a quick guess at on saying what the FU number actually stands for? What does FU number stand for?
I don't know, maybe it just stands for fund.
Okay, I like the attitude there. Be a little more aggressive. You're getting there right there. Anyone else? I see some giggles.
Is it fuck you money?
There you go. Yeah, that's what it means. So, right, and that's not meant to be like aggressive or anything, but what that means is you have passive income covering your expenses, your lifestyle. So like if you're in a job you hate or the boss that you just can't stand, you could go fuck you and move on. Okay, I got time now to transition to a different job. Or, like let's say you're having a family, right? And you want to just spend some time with kids and newborns coming off. You can go and do that. Or you want to go spend a month in Bali or whatever it is. You can do that, right? You have the freedom to do that. So this is your target, right? How much money do you actually need to have invested so you can reach that fuck you moment, right? By the time you're 40 years old. Next is the 7-minute budget. This is where we've literally just simplified budgeting, right? Where it's like, everyone thinks budgeting and it's complicated in spreadsheets and I'm like some CFO, right? The reality is you don't have to have that to be that complicated. If you're in college and you're a student, your financial life probably is not that complicated just yet. So we simplified it, right? So once a month, 7 minutes or less, you play with this tool that we have, and you know you're on the right track. We look at your cash flow. Next is the Fast 4 Foundation. These are the 4 foundational accounts that you need to essentially manage your entire financial life. Turns out there's only 4 of them, so we'll cover those. Next, we got cash flow. This is where we love to talk about side hustling, starting your own business, kind of my bread and butter there, so we'll dive into that, give you some ways to generate some more money so you can put it towards your freedom. And then lastly, we talk about the abundant life. And this is the reason why we're doing all this, right? Because we want to live lives full of abundance, happiness, whatever that looks like for you. So that sort of ties it all together. Any questions on that system? We'll dive into some more specifics here. Feel free to interrupt at any point in time, too. Okay, awesome. So as Bob was mentioning, we'll do a little icebreaker here, the concept of paper cuts, right? So literally think about what a paper cut is. It's a cut. It hurts you, it might slowly bleed you out a little bit, but it's not going to kill you, right? This is kind of the idea here. So now think about your life and where you're spending money, right? Every day, like Starbucks, or I see a Starbucks cup over here. I'm not no mean to pick, but like, okay, we all do it. That's okay, right? But if it's bringing freedom to your life, okay, you might want to consider it. But we just want to make you aware of how much these regular occurring spending habits are really costing you that may or may not be actually adding to your freedom. So without further ado, we got a tool for you here. This one's super fun. So if you guys got your phones on, go ahead and pull them out, give that QR code a scan. The guys in the back, if it doesn't work for you, maybe I can blow it up a little bit, but should be able to scan it. And what this is going to do is take you to a very simple calculator that we programmed where it's going to show you how much your spending habits are really starting to cost you. Sorry, someone's trying to come in, I think. So go ahead and play with that, and then we'll go over and have some fun, go around the room and see what each of your paper cuts are and how much they're costing you. You guys able to scan it okay in the back? Cool. I see some shock faces over here. The numbers are going to be big, right? You scroll down to the bottom, that bottom line number, that's the real expense. That's how much it's really costing you. So I'll let you guys play, calculate a little more. I see you giggling up in the middle over here. What was your paper cut? Curious.
Coffee.
Coffee, okay. And what's the real cost for you at the bottom?
$753,000.
There you go. Okay. Anyone else calculated? Wants to just quick share? Shout it out. Go on. Let's go.
Online shopping.
Okay.
$3 million.
$3 million. Ooh. Okay, can anyone beat $3 million? That's a big one. Anyone else? I saw another hand coming up over here in the middle.
Oh, mine is $2 million on fast food every few days.
Fast food every few days. There's $2 million she's missing out on. So these numbers are shocking, right? They're big, and most people probably have more than one of these in your life. So like add them all up, you're probably millions of dollars that you're missing out on. You might be asking yourself, like, how are we calculating this? Where are we getting that number from? Basically what we're doing is we're taking your spending frequency, right, and then totaling that, right? So let's say you're spending, I don't know, $50 a month on coffee or whatever it comes out to. If you were to take that $50 now and invest it into an index fund like the S&P 500 index, and don't touch it, money's not going to the coffee anymore, just invest it and let that compound for 40 years, that's the total amount of value you're missing out on. So millions of dollars, that's why we came up with this concept. That's $1 million latte, right? It's powerful stuff, guys. So I urge you to play around with that some more and really see how much that's really costing you. But any questions on that? It's a pretty powerful tool, right? So let's take a look, and again, right? The idea here is it's not scarcity, right? It's not like, oh, cut all this out, cut rice and beans the rest of your life and live in a scarcity-oriented mindset. That's not the idea here behind this. It's like, if you want that latte, go get it, right? But just notice your regular, spending habits that are just like not really adding to your freedom, that you just kind of do on autopilot, right? Like, do I really watch Netflix every month? Or like, that's $20 a month out of my pocket. What am I doing that for? Do you know what I mean? That you can just get out of your life and then go do something more productive with that and put that money towards your freedom. Because what's more important, right? So the idea here and why this is so powerful, this whole concept, is what we call passive income. Who knows what this is, just by a quick show of hands? Okay, so pretty much the entire room, right? It's money that you don't have to work for. Let your money work for you, sort of thing. And now traditionally, the way people tap into this power and generate passive income is through something called compound interest. Just another quick show of hands. Who is familiar with what compound interest is? Okay, so majority of the room again here. The idea here is that let your money work for you, let it compound, right? It's like a snowball effect. It just keeps building and building and building. It's exponential. And the way people typically tap into this power is through making investments, right? Through like the S&P 500. So let's just run a quick example here as to starting early versus starting later in life. So let's hypothetically, like Bob was even mentioning, right? They gave the example, just $100 a month, right? So let's say you start when you're 20 years old, put $100 away into the S&P 500 index, let it sit and let it compound for 40 years. Look it up in the top right there. $1.143 million you have in your pocket. That's a pretty big chunk of change, right? But now let's compare that to someone who waited 20 years, right, and didn't start till they were 40. So it has 20 less years to compound and to grow. Look at the difference, guys. See how big that is? $98,000. That's literally $1 million difference just by starting later in life. See how powerful it is? It's still $100. Crazy, right? So if it's not clear by now, you guys all have the greatest gift ever right now, sitting in this room, right here, right now. What is it? Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time. You're younger, right? Imagine if you knew this when you were like 10 years old and just got started. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. So start now, the biggest takeaway, right? You're young, stay disciplined, start now, and you'll thank your future self later. So it's clear, guys, again, like Bob was saying, we're not just after the money here, right? Money's simply a resource. We're after freedoms in your life, whatever those look like for you. And the beautiful thing is they can be all different, right? But the way to freedom is through generating passive income. And typically you do that through investing. So if that's not compelling enough now, let's see your actual number, right? So now you guys are probably like, oh my God, like this is awesome. I know how powerful this can be. How much do I actually need, right? And that's where, again, where this FU tool comes into place. So we're going to go ahead now and actually help you guys right here, right now, within 2 to 3 minutes, find your FU number. How fun is that? So see the QR code on the screen? Go ahead, pull out your phone, give that bad boy a scan. It's going to take you right to a very similar tool to that paper cut calculator, where you're going to be able to actually just put in some inputs, right? Like where you're going to live, how many times a week you eat out, what's your family structure look like. So think of your life when you're 40 years old when you're putting these numbers in, right? And you might not know, life can change, things can change. That's okay, but just shoot for a ballpark estimate right now, and then it's going to actually calculate your number for you. So I'll give you guys 2 to 3 minutes to play with that, and then we'll break it down for you. So again, guys, think of your life when you're like 40 years old. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can always go back and play with it again later. Just want to get you guys in the right ballpark. Using your phone for the work. I was like, are you good? Are you good? Good. But yeah. Maybe you have to steal someone else's or look over someone's shoulder, you know? Guys still need some more time? Cool. So those of you that are finishing up and waiting, you get your number, just keep it on that screen there. Or we'll go over it. Anyone done that wants to share? You all set over there? Did you get your number? What's your freedom contribution, that monthly number below that total? $237. Okay. Anyone else done that wants to just quick shout out their freedom contribution? What's your number? $711. You got it? Got yours? $672. Okay. Awesome. Anyone else that like feels like, oh my God, that's a big number? We'll break it down for you. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, awesome. Well, so what this number is now, that freedom contribution, is that monthly amount that we would recommend investing so that at the time you're 40 years old, you know, that's why we factored in and got your birthday and everything there, is because we stop that investing when you're 40, right? You can keep going, obviously, but once you hit that 40 years old, you're financially free based on that lifestyle that you selected. So though that tool is super simple and easy and fun to play with, right, there's actually a lot that's going on in the back end on there. Right, so we're factoring in U.S. Census Bureau data, labor statistics, cost of living indexes, average historical S&P 500 rate returns. Right, so that's all working to get you guys in most accurate number and get you in the ballpark of what do I need to be shooting for. So that's your number, guys. Right, and we always tell people, go ahead and like screenshot that number, put it as your background, right, and commit to that, because that's what's going to help get you financially free. Question?
Is that a number we're putting into stocks or just saving?
Stock. So this would be what you're going to invest into like an S&P 500 index.
Out of curiosity. Okay. we'll end up with like 1.1 million, right? By the time we're 40.
Correct.
So
40 years of compounding.
oh, okay, 40 years. Of
So like,
okay.
I would assume like you're in your 20s, right? So it's half that, right? So it's different. But like, I mean, if you want to say a 3 by 60, right, add that extra 20, that's 40 years of compounding, right? So your number would be less. So you feel free to play around with that birthday. Like act like you were like 10 years old. You can put in an earlier birthday if you want, and you'll see that number will go a lot lower because compounding.
All right, cool. Never mind.
If you have a partner, is that both of the, you guys have to invest both of those, or is that just?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andrew. So he's saying like, if my number is like higher, like, oh my God, if you selected with your family construct that you had a partner that was financially responsible too for your freedom as a group, you can cut that number in half, right? Because you have a spouse or significant other that's also working and contributing, right? So that's where that number comes from as well. Good question.
What is the estimated percentage that is growing?
So average historical S&P 500 index is 12% over back since inception. So that's what we factored. Any other questions? We'll keep rocking. Awesome. So this is your number now, guys, right? Let me show you how we can break that down, right? If you're looking at your number going, oh my God, how am I going to get that? Let's show you how easy it is to actually attain. So let's just have a hypothetical example here, right? I know everyone's got their own unique number and everything, but in this case, let's go with the freedom contribution is $619. So we'll start with that. That's where we're targeted. Is that we're going to shoot for. Now, I know you guys are in school, so you might not have full advantage of this yet. But the second you get your job, listen up, because this is super important. Who here knows what a 401k company match is? Okay, so about half the room, right? So typically, when you go get your job, full-time job, there's a benefits package that you get. And as a part of that benefits package, a company will offer a 401k company match. And in the simplest sense, what this is free money. Literally, right? So what the benefit is you commit to pulling some money out of your paycheck each month and saying, I want to take this money and invest it towards my future and my freedom, right? That's what a 401k is, right? It's an investment account, pretty much. And then your company, up to a certain dollar amount, will say, okay, we'll match that. Great job. Good job for wanting to invest in your freedoms, right? Now, it's not unlimited, right? You can't just say, I'm going to take all my paycheck and invest it, right? There's a cap to it. So each company, each package is different. But let's just say, hypothetically, the average is around $225 that someone would contribute, right? So you contribute $225 from your paycheck, and your company also matches that. So now you have $450 right there towards your freedom. So $619 minus $450, you got $169 left to make up, right? So remember the concept of paper cuts? So let's say I'm addicted to Starbucks and I spend $100 a month on there, right? That's not like actually out of bounds either, too. So my sister-in-law has a serious Starbucks addiction, well, had, and then Evviva came along, right? We really helped her out. So the first of the month, January 1st, she goes, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do this, Rob. She eliminated Starbucks from her life, right? With the help of us and saying like, look what's more important. We showed her the tool, like literally just what you guys did. She goes, oh my gosh, right? She stopped her Starbucks, and I think a month and a half in, guess how much she said she saved? Because she was like being super methodical in tracking this. Over $700. Unreal. She would go 2-3 times a day, get food there. Like, it was ridiculous. So that's like insane, right? But like, think about this now. So let's just say I was able to cut out $100 of paper cuts from my life. Now I'm investing that, right? So I only have $69 left now to come up with to meet my freedom contribution. So what we do is we call this the gap. Right, now you got to come up with that $69. You got to earn that somehow. So what do you think we recommend? Bob was talking about it earlier. Starting a side hustle, right? Who here can come up with $69? You can figure that out like right here, right now. Just go sign up for Uber. I bet you earn that in a day if you hustle, right? Easy peasy. So we'll talk a little bit more about side hustling in a little bit here, but that's the idea here. Right, so I hope that breaks that down on the FU number side of things, right? Like we're going to show you ways you can get that. But make sure the second you guys go get your job, ask your company about that 401k company match, because that's just game changing for a lot of people. Okay, so that's your FU number. Now you guys got your target. Let's dive into the 7-minute budget and sort of where this comes from. So the idea behind this again is, remember, budgeting does not have to be complicated, and especially if you're in college, your financial life probably is not that sophisticated just yet. There's really only 4 big expenses that you really have to focus on and manage, right? That's where you choose to go to school, your transportation, how many times you go out to eat, and where you're going to live. Real simple, right? So straightforward. Just manage those big decisions that you really don't make that frequently, and then look at the rest of things, right? So you really understand, where's my money going out and where's my money coming in. So the idea here, we have a whole nother tool, happy to share this with you guys in the future, but for purpose of time, we'll keep cranking through here. Where you're just gonna put, where's your money going out this month? At the first of the month, go in there, say, okay, here's my expenses I have, and here's the money I have coming in. And then our tool, what it's gonna do is go into the red or into the green and give you an actual feedback saying, hey, you got more money going out this month than coming in. Let's take a look at a few things, right? Maybe we start a side hustle, maybe we generate some more income, or, hey, great, you got more money coming in this month than going out. That's a good situation to be in, right? But if you have that, it's like, let's figure out where we can allocate those funds, as in like maybe invest them so you can start making some money and putting your money to work for you, right? So that's the idea here, is that just once a month in 7 minutes or less, we're going to help you understand your cash flow situation. So we make budgeting fun and easy for you guys. Okay, so that's the 7-minute budget. Then the 7-minute budget ties directly into what we call the Fast 4 Foundation. And these are the 4 foundational accounts that you need to manage essentially your entire financial life. Turns out there's only really 4 of them, right? So what we're going to do is show you the Fast 4 and sort of how this system works and how the cash flows in the Evviva system. So this is the structure of things. So up at the top there is we got cash flow. All right, so this is where your money's coming in, where you got your job, you got your side hustle, passive income, gifts, whatever it is, flows into typically, a primary account. And typically this is like an account maybe you set up when you were a kid, maybe mom and dad helped you do it. It's probably a savings account, right? So it stays in that primary account. And then once a month, based on this 7-minute budget, what we do is show you where to move money to these other 3 accounts right below it, right? Based on your cash flow situation. So we say, okay, once a month, move money to your digital envelope. And effectively, this is like a checking account, right? But what a digital envelope, and the reason why we call this is, and the reason it's a totally separate account, is because like this could be like a budgeting tactic maybe your parents or grandparents might have used, right? Where they would literally take a physical envelope and stuff cash in it and be like, here's my money for rent, here's my money for groceries, here's my money for gas, and then don't touch it, right? It's an effective strategy that works. So we brought this into the 21st century, and this is what we do. We call it the digital envelope, right? So this is going to be meant to cover your monthly expenditures, any debt repayments, things along that nature for you. And then once a month, based on a 7-minute budget, from your primary account, we go move some money to your emergency fund. Right? And the idea here is just get started, build discipline around this, right? It's amazing, once you start this, how much anxiety and stress goes out of your life, right? Because now you know, oh my God, if I have a problem, I gotta take my dog to the vet or my car breaks down, I'm covered, I got an emergency fund. And the reality is this doesn't need to be a massive amount, right? If you're a student, probably around like $500 should be good enough to get you covered, right? So shoot for just like 25, whatever you can put a month away, $25 until you get to like a $500 threshold. Everyone's threshold is going to be different, right? If you say I want $1,000, shoot for that. Go ahead, great, all power to you. But the idea is just get started so you have the safety net. So that's that emergency fund. And then lastly, arguably probably the most important account here, this whole system, is the freedom account. And this is effectively is your investment account. So this is where you're going to once a month just put that money away, make your freedom contribution. Even if you can't make your freedom contribution all the way right now while you're in school, anything is better than nothing, right? Remember the difference in time? See how powerful that was? Anything is better than nothing. So that's kind of the account structure and how the system works. Any questions on that before I move on? That's good, right? It's pretty straightforward. Super simple. That's the idea here at Evviva. We want to make this simple, easy to understand so you can just get started. Who here, just out of curiosity, has an emergency fund? Just like something that's completely separate just for an emergency. Okay, wow. Only like 2 or 3. Wow. So like, see how powerful this stuff can be, guys? Like, how many guys are, oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna have money to cover this, right? Like, imagine that anxiety gone. Crazy, right? Awesome. So now let's talk about cash flow. Let's talk about generating some money, getting money coming in. At Evviva, we talk about some ways that we can generate money, mainly skewed towards side hustles, right? We love people starting businesses and doing things, but there's other forms of cash flow too, right? So we want to get you guys in the green, making money so you can put it towards your freedom. That's the idea. That's what we're after, is freedoms here. So the first way typically people do this is they go get a job. Super straightforward. Trade your time, earn some money. Next is gifts, and we talk about this, right, because we understand you guys are students. You might have parents that are helping you out, maybe subsidizing some of your rent or anything. Like, number one, just be super grateful of that, you know what I mean? Because not everyone is, having that in their life. So if you got it, be grateful of it, but it's still money in, right? So we want to consider that, and we factor that into your budget too. And then last is my favorite, we talk about side hustles, right? So this is where you're a go-getter, focusing on unique capabilities, go and deliver it, and it's basically running your own business. So at Evviva, what we've done is we've broken down side hustling into 3 categories. The first of which we call them cookie cutter hustles. These are the ones, they're super straightforward. You can get started on it like literally right now. So typically the gig economy ones, so you got like Instacart, DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever have it. There's tons of them where you can literally just go, I like that one, I'm going to do it. It pays well, right? And look at that. I mean, some people are figuring out how to be smart and engineer the thing to make $37 an hour or whatever it came out to, right? That's amazing. So that's cookie cutter hustle. Super straightforward, easy to get into. Don't got to do a lot of thinking, but it's all the benefits of starting a side hustle, right? You're an independent contractor. Get to make your own hours, work when you want, where you want, turn it on, turn it off. It's awesome. Next, we call them platform hustles. And this is where you're utilizing someone else's existing platform to deliver your product or service and help you find customers. Right, so this is kind of where I started out originally, like buying and reselling things on eBay. Facebook Marketplace is a big one nowadays. Things like that, like you can use Shopify, do e-commerce, right? Where you're literally using someone else's platform, but then you get to be creative, right? You have your own product or service. Maybe you got an Etsy store or something, you like crafts and arts, or what's the one machine, like the Circuit or whatever? Like you see a lot of people doing that stuff nowadays and doing pretty well with it too. So like those are platform hustles. And then lastly, these are more do-it-yourself hustles, right? So as the name implies, you're literally doing them yourself, right? So think like maybe being a landscaper or doing auto detailing. Two of them that I actually did when I was in college, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about these, was I was cutting hair in my dorm room and fixing phone screens while I was in school. So I'm a UB alum. I was doing this literally as I was walking up here. I remember fixing a few phone screens right out there in that common area. I'm like, oh, I remember doing that. It's sweet. But you can literally like just focus on your unique capabilities and figure out how to do things and start your own business while you're in school, work around your class schedule and have all the freedoms and flexibility of doing that, right? So I'll give you a little backstory. So when I was in college, I'm from Rochester, right? So that's like an hour east of Buffalo here. And when I first transferred out to UB, I'm like, great, this is awesome. And my hair started growing. And I'm like, I'm not going to go all the way back out to Rochester to go get my hair cut once every 2 weeks like guys do, you know what I mean, typically. So like, and I don't really want to find a barber out in Buffalo because like, I'm not going to trust someone brand new with my hair. What if they butcher it? So I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do it myself, right? So what I did is watched a few YouTube videos, figured it out, and went and built a 3-panel mirror where you go in and everything's backwards, right? So you butcher it once or twice, you wear a hat, it's good, right? It grows back, thankfully. But then I started getting pretty good at it, right? And then I'm like walking to my lecture halls and a few of my buddies would stop me and be like, yo, bro, where do you get your hair cut? Looks good. I'm like, I did it myself. They're like, no way, whoa, you're twisting my arm. I'm like, no, seriously. They're like, can you cut my hair? And like, that sounds like I might be onto something here. There's a lot of people that come to college that have a problem of my barber's not here, right? So I'm like, yeah, of course I can come to my dorm room, $20. So in between classes and everything, I would have people come into my dorm room, cutting their hair, $20. And nowadays, $20, I mean, that won't even get you a shave. Do you know what I mean? Like a nice skin fade or whatever is for like $40 after tip if you go to a decent barber. You know what I mean? So do the numbers, right? When I was in school, I was doing like 15 cuts a month, $20 a cut. That's $300 in my pocket now that I'm putting towards my freedom. So just think of that, guys. Like, what are you uniquely capable of doing? Focus on your unique capabilities and then go deliver something, right? People will pay for it. It's amazing, right? And I always like, I mean, if you're in school, you have tons of students that you have access to, right? That you can go talk to and say, hey, look, let me help you out with that. So that's that. Like, that's side hustle. And I did phone screens too. Like, that was another thing. Like, I just got sick and tired of dropping my phone, right? And then my phone screen's cracked, and then you go give Apple $200. And it's like, oh my God, how many times am I going to shell out $200 if you don't have Apple Care for this? It's like, this is ridiculous. So I went on Amazon, bought a little screwdriver set, watched some more YouTube videos, learned how to fix my phone screens. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I bet you tons of other people, because college students, what do they do on the weekend? They go out to the bars, they go to Chippewa, have one too many, and then phone drops and it cracks. Oh, shit, right? It's all right. It happens to everyone. So like what I did was, it's like, okay, there's probably a lot of people that have cracked phone screens too. I'm looking, there's a crack screen, there's a crack screen. I'm like, okay. So what I did is I went and took 8x11 sheets of paper, just got a nice picture of a phone with a cracked screen on it, took up half the page. Other half, I go, look familiar, ? Give me a call, I can help you. And that's it. And I slapped those flyers all over campus, just on all the hallways that you walk through to get to places like this. And my phone was ringing off the hook. People are like, yeah, but what can you do? What can you do? I offered a unique service because I was on campus. I could just meet them where they're at. Didn't have to go off campus. Most people don't have transportation. And the margins in phone repairs are like fantastic, right? Apple charges you $150, $200. I would charge half of that and still make like 60, 70% margins. It's crazy, unreal, right? So I urge you guys, like, if you have an idea, you're thinking of starting a business or whatever, just get your feet wet, right? Start side hustling and like figure out, like, oh my God. And you'll learn all the skills that can really help you start bigger businesses in the future, right? So that's side hustling. That's my little spiel on that. But the idea here, guys, is we're starting to learn to generate income to put it towards our freedom, right? That's the idea. So if you're interested in side hustle and want to learn more and engage with sort of Evviva as like our little side hustle network, what we've done is we put together a Discord channel where we're literally just going to start talking about side hustles and little threads and things. Like if you want to learn how to start things or do things, engage with us, we're going to be doing some just like live hangouts and stuff like that in the future. So that'd be a great place to join if you want to just shoot the shit, talk about side hustle and things like that. So I'll give you a second if you want to give that a scan. Sweet. Awesome. Got it? We can always come back to it too. All right, and then lastly, it's all about abundance, right? We want to help you guys live a life of freedom, happiness, fulfillment, abundance, right? So this is where this part of the system, it all kind of ties it together there. And this is where we're talking about just mindsets, habits, tips, tricks. We're always going to be building on this, right? Just to deliver you guys value and reinforce, like, why are we doing this, right? Like, what's the whole intention and the goal here? And it's going to be different for everyone else, right? But the idea here is we want to start getting you guys, like, reflecting, turning your eyes inward, and really tying this to a bigger why, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just moving money and utilizing the system, right? But like, really, if you sit and really hit home with yourself, why am I doing this? Maybe I want to go travel and see these countries because that's like something my family does, or I want to have kids and like really spend time to have the freedom to do what I want with them when I want, go coach their sports teams, whatever it is. You can do that, right? Because you're being disciplined. So this is the idea there. So I urge you guys to really think through this and like, ask yourself, what does your abundant life look like? And see how Evviva can help fit into that, right? So what I want to do is like urge you guys to basically be like, okay, look, this stuff's super important, right? Like we showed you the time of like, look, you're two kinds of people. You're either going to start now and get disciplined and be serious about living an abundant life full of freedoms, or you're going to be someone who goes, I can wait till tomorrow and I'll figure this out at some point in my life, right? What's the biggest enemy of today, right here, right now? Anyone know? It's tomorrow, right? So don't be that kind of person, right? When's the best time to start getting up and get your physical health in order? Yesterday, right? So I hope this really resonates and hits home with you guys. So like I hope was able to deliver some value with you guys and really understand how powerful this can be, right? So what I want to do is, and this is because I'm a UB alumni myself, I want to extend a completely free special offer to you guys. Usually we charge $97 for this. It's literally like a personal training session where I'm myself or one person on my team is going to actually help you walk through and implement this entire system that we just went over step by step and get you to the point where you're on track to being financially free by 40. So I'm going to give this away completely for free for you guys now. There's literally no risk. There's no fees for you guys. I'm not going to say, give me your credit card number or anything like that on there. This is literally out of my good heart and UB alumni, because I'm a UB alumni. I want to give back to you guys, right? Live a life of service. That's what you do as an entrepreneur. You help people out, right? So if this was clear and this really resonated to you and you're someone who's like, this is my moment, like I don't really realize like a lot of, and I don't really know how this whole financial world and investing really works. We're gonna make this so simple and easy for you, I swear, right? This is gonna be like, oh my God, complete clarity. And we're gonna ensure that all your questions are answered regarding this whole system here. So if you pull out your phone, give that a scan, it's gonna take you right to my calendar where it's gonna give you a time to just book with myself. And I'm gonna lock that in. It's gonna be your time. We're gonna help you implement this Evviva system and get you rocking and rolling so you can be on track to being financially free by 40. So guys, hope this was helpful, hope this was valuable. I'll be here if you have any questions or anything, but I highly urge you, give that a scan, book a time with my calendar, and I'm here to help you guys. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, here to answer them. Appreciate it. I'm an open book too, so like nothing's out of bounds. You can ask me anything. Finance, life, whatever.
How'd you get to the point where you're at right now?
Got all night? I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. So like I said, I'm a UB alumni. I'm graduated, I studied biology and psychology. And then I got into a dual graduate degree program. So I was gonna be a dentist, right? I was getting my DDS and MBA. And all throughout undergrad, I was like, really just focused on like, okay, be a dentist, right? Because from a very young age, I've always known I want to do my own thing, right? It's the classic. I had the moment when I was 5 years old, right? The lemonade stand. Oh my God, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? It's like, it's crazy how it works. But like my lemonade stand, it wasn't just lemonade iced tea, right? I would buy and sell baseball cards and Pokemon cards, and I built like little carnival games so I could offer a service, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in flow, I'm working, I'm hustling at the end of my driveway. And then I remember at the end of the night, just walking up the driveway and like, I got a pocket full of money. Like, this is awesome. Like, I just had so much fun, and like, people pay me for this. Like, sweet. So like, I've always known I want to do my own thing. So, you know, going through school and everything, I'm like, okay, I'm good at math. I'm good at science. I like the aspect of like science for me, guys. And I'm sure engineers are the same way, because you think like a scientist, right? Where science explains things. Right? Like I've just, from very young, I was just always a curious person. I just ask questions, right? And then like, for me, science was like, oh, there's my answer. Right? Because you have questions, you have a hypothesis, you come up with methods and ways to test things, you collect data, and then you make decisions. Right? So like, I love that approach. It really resonated. So I'm like, okay, let's do science. And biology and psychology, learn how we work, how the world works, our physiology. It's like, oh my God, it's so cool. Just geeked out on it. You know what I mean? And so like, traditionally, people that take that route, what they do is they get into healthcare, right? So I'm like, okay, where can I go in healthcare and own my own business? And then, you know, I started with like, oh, I want to be an anesthesiologist because they make $300K a year. Like, this is sick. Like, then I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't want to put people to sleep and they might not wake up. Oh my gosh, like, I don't want that kind of responsibility. My goodness. So then I was like, okay, I came across dentistry. I'm like, you get to own your own business, you do your own thing, you help people, you serve. And then I was like, okay, sight set, locked in. Let's do that. That's what I'm doing. Right? And then I just got laser focused, tunnel visioned in, and just like grinding through school, taking 25 credits a semester, dual majoring, like busting my ass. The hard part's getting into dental school, right? Once you're in, you're gonna be a dentist, right? They graduate like 98% of the people that get in there. So I was like, okay, this is great. Like, in the second I got in, I had a chance to breathe now, right? Because I'm just like grinding, laser focused. And I took a step back and I just went and did this thought exercise. You know, like you ask yourself why, and you just think about it. And I asked myself, and I really sat with this for a while, I was like, why dentistry specifically is the medium to be of service to other people, to own your own business, right? And at the time, I'm a senior now in undergrad and taking electives now because I got all my requirements, I'm in dental school, and that's why I took Bob's class, sitting back there. And that's why I had to beat down the door and figure out how the heck am I gonna get in there? Because it was out of my major jurisdiction, right? Like, you can't go take a business class if you're in the natural sciences. So it's like, nowadays that's changed, thankfully, right? And I took this class and we're like, you know, it was like all the concepts and everything had resonated with this deep personal discovery journey that I had been on. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and we started talking after class and doing things. And then, you know, one day after class, towards the end of the semester, he approached me. He's like, hey, I got a grant to work on some entrepreneurship modules and stuff that we're developing for the school to help build a program. Would you like to help me with it? I'm like, absolutely, let's get working. Let's do it, right? And so like one thing led to another, and really what it came to me was, like I said, I want to serve and impact more people than I could with my own two hands. And in business, there's tons of different ways that you can do that. I just hadn't been exposed to it. Do you know what I mean? So like after that, I was just like, you know what? I know that I'm more of an entrepreneur than a dentist, right? Because I really started looking under the lens and shadowing dentists in the area and like, do I really want to be hunched over in someone's mouth for 60-hour weeks? Right, trying to grind by maybe that time I'm like 50, 60 years old, then making some serious money. And the reality is, no, I didn't, right? And that's okay. So like I decided that I'm no longer going to be pursuing that and make that commitment to be full-time entrepreneur, right, instead of a dentist. And did I have all the answers? Absolutely not. I still don't, right? You never will, right? That's the thing. So if you're telling yourself like, oh, you know, the situation, the timing's not just right yet, or like, oh, I don't know about this, then you're probably never gonna do it. Right? The best time to do something is when you don't know all the answers, because by taking action and moving forward, you eliminate uncertainties, right? Entrepreneurship is all about just taking that first step and not seeing the whole staircase, because you never will, right? But you know you're going to take a step and step and step, and you're going to go up, right? And you're going to continually grow and develop and learn, right? So that's kind of the idea here. And so I made that commitment, right? And if you're feeling that way, like, oh, I don't know if this major, I don't know if this, like, and you continue to go and then sort of live this life that you're like, why didn't I do that, right? When you get the bill, you know, for your life at the end, when you know, at the end stages of your life, and you look back and you go, what did I do with my life? And I regret this. That's one of the worst feelings, right? So I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and know that I'm not having to wear a mask every day and really feel like, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have tried that. And you do that, you eliminate that feeling by taking action. When you know something's off in your gut, or you feel like, oh, I should be doing something else, just go do it. Right? Don't force yourself, oh, just because society pressures me to do this way, or my parents really want me to do that. If you know in your head and your heart that you should be doing something other than what you're doing in the external world, do it. Right? Just align with that. And then when you start doing that, you build some momentum and you really feel like you're in your true self and like in a state of coherence is what I would call it. Right? So that's kind of the idea. But long-winded, I know there's a lot more to it, a lot more moving parts, but that's kind of my path and kind of how I got to where I'm at. So appreciate the question. Anyone else?
So this is putting all your money in the index fund, not all of it, the amount. But what do you think about real estate or like crypto or other investments?
So I think real estate and like other forms of investment are a great way to diversify. For us here, like we're all about just getting you started and teaching you the basics. When we start talking about crypto or anything like that, like don't get me wrong, there's some people that can make a ton of money doing that, but I'm someone that's like, yeah, that's like going to the casino and just facing I'm going to put on black and I hope it hits, like AMC or whatever. Like, sure, there's tons of people that are making money, but like betting your whole financial future on that, like crypto side of things, probably not the best thing. But like I'm not to say that there's some day traders out there that are making some money, but they'll only tell you about their wins at the end of the day, right? They're not going to go, shit, man, I just lost 10 grand. They're going to go, I won 10 grand, right? So you never really know, but some people make money. I mean, it's a good way to diversify with real estate or other forms of investments. Like, you can get into like foreign emerging markets and all that stuff. Like if you want to get super sophisticated, but like no need to do that, right? The reality is, and Warren Buffett even says this, is like, investing is a simple game, right? Dollar cost average, commit to making that monthly contribution to your investment account, as in like that freedom contribution, which all of you just calculated for yourself. Commit to making that regardless of whether the market's up or the market's down, and just take your emotions out of it. Don't get involved in it. Just set it and forget it. And you'll be ahead of 99% of the population, right? Because the people who are actively trading and trying to manage and buy and sell and this and all that, they end up losing their money, right? My brother, he's a certified financial planner at Canandaigua National Bank over in Rochester, and he's in the wealth strategies department. He gives the people the analogy on investing. Investing is like, think of your account, your investment account, like a bar of soap, right? The more you wash your hands with it, in other words, the more you trade and actively try and manage your fund, the smaller it's gonna get, right? So think of it like that. The idea is just set it and forget it. Don't overcomplicate things. But are there ways to diversify and build and maybe even beat returns? Absolutely. Start a business too. That's another way to make an investment, right? So, but yeah, crypto and all that other stuff, like we don't even talk about that here. It's too risky.
This all looks like really polished. I was wondering, how did you guys like create, I don't know, like the icons, like specific to what you're doing? Did you have to like hire people to contract out? I know you had another partner. You came into like a 202 lecture one time. I helped teach.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, like traditionally people just use like PowerPoint now, like this is what we're used to, but like this was all done in Canva, right? So I work with other people, right? I have decent design eye myself, I would hope to say, so I help like sort of lead and manage that, but like you can just sign up for a free Canva account and have access to all these different free royalty-free designs and images and utilize them, right? And even the premium one, it's only a couple bucks a month, So that way you can do things like make PNG images and things like that really pop. Yeah, yep. So that's all built from the ground up sort of thing. But there's tons of different softwares and packages and things like, even like everyone thinks like, I want to start a business, I need an app, right? Where it's like, oh my God, now they're going to incur hundreds of thousands of dollars in app development, things like that. There's even pieces of software out there that are like drag and drop app builders. Like Bob was saying, like you can start a business for $5 grand or less. Throw up a free Wix website and just test things, you know what I mean? And they look and feel great nowadays. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about technology now. I mean, like everyone's like raving about ChatGPT and everything nowadays too, right? You can go to ChatGPT and go, hey, write me a website sales page and see what it does, right? And then you coach it, right? It's not as easy as that, but like get creative, right? You guys have all the resources you need right in the palm of your hands on your phone. It's crazy. But yeah, this was done in Canva. No doubt, man. Any other questions? You guys have been great, seriously. Appreciate your guys' time. Anyone else? No? Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. You guys are great. I will be here if anyone else has any questions.